Little German Shepherd puppy keeps following officer for help. What she finds leaves her in tears. The morning started calm in the small town of Riverbend, a quiet place tucked between long pine forests and empty country roads. Officer Emily Carter was driving her patrol car along the old Creekside Road, enjoying the soft glow of the rising sun. It was one of those peaceful mornings where nothing seemed out of place. Then she saw it. A tiny German Shepherd puppy was running after her car with all its strength, its paws kicking up dust as it tried desperately to keep up. At first Emily thought it was just a stray looking for food. But something felt wrong. The puppy wasn't slowing down. It wasn't scared. It was chasing her like it needed her. Emily eased her foot off the pedal. When she stopped the car and stepped out, the puppy sprinted straight to her and began barking in a panicked way, its little chest rising and falling fast. Its eyes were wide, filled with something she didn't expect from a dog that young. Fear. Urgency. A plea for help. Emily knelt down, unsure what to think. The puppy nudged her boot, then turned toward the trees, whining sharply. It looked back at her again and again as if begging her to follow. A strong chill ran through Emily's body. This wasn't normal behavior. This puppy wasn't lost. It was trying to tell her something. She glanced around. No houses. No people. No broken fences. No sign that anyone had been nearby. The puppy tugged at her pant leg and let out a soft cry, shaking from more than just cold. Emily felt her heartbeat rise. Whatever was going on, the little dog was terrified and it wanted her to go into the woods. "All right," she whispered under her breath even though no one could hear her. "Show me." The puppy turned and ran toward the tree line, stopping only to make sure she was following. Emily took a deep breath, stepped off the road and followed the tiny German Shepherd into the thick forest, unaware that the next few minutes would leave her shaken to her core. Emily stepped deeper into the forest, the morning light fading behind the thick branches above her. The ground felt soft and cool under her boots, covered in damp leaves from last night's rain. The little German Shepherd moved ahead with quick, nervous steps, stopping every few seconds to look back at her. It wasn't wandering. It knew where it was going. Emily felt her chest tighten. She had handled many calls in her career, but never had a puppy dragged her into the woods like this. Something was wrong. Something real. The puppy reached a narrow path between two leaning trees and squeezed through. Emily followed, brushing branches away from her face. As soon as she stepped out on the other side, her eyes caught faint marks on the ground. The dirt looked pressed down in uneven lines, like something had been dragged through here recently. She crouched and touched the ground. The soil was still soft, not yet dry. Whatever happened here didn't happen long ago. The puppy let out a loud bark, breaking the silence. It stood near a fallen log, pacing in circles, tail stiff, head down like it was tracking a familiar scent. Emily's throat tightened. Her instincts were pushing her forward. She pressed her radio button. "This is Officer Carter. I'm in the woods off Creekside Road. Possible signs of an incident. Can't confirm yet. Trying to get a better look." Static. The signal was too weak. Emily swallowed hard. She hated moving without backup, but she couldn't ignore the panic in the puppy's eyes. She took a slow breath and kept walking. The trees grew denser and the air felt heavier. Even the birds had gone quiet. Then she saw something ahead. A small piece of blue fabric caught under a low branch, fluttering gently in the breeze. She walked closer and pulled it free. It was part of a tiny shirt, torn and stained with dirt. Her heart dropped. This was no random forest search. Someone had been here. And someone small. The puppy barked again, louder and sharper, then bolted down a small slope. Emily hurried after it, her pulse racing faster with every step. She didn't know what she was about to find. But she knew it wasn't going to be simple, and it wasn't going to be easy. Emily hurried down the slope, careful not to slip on the damp ground. The puppy waited at the bottom, whining loudly, its body shaking with fear and urgency. It ran a few steps forward, then back to her, as if begging her to move faster. The trees opened into a small clearing where the light barely touched the ground. Emily's breath caught the moment she stepped in. Something was there. At first she saw only scattered leaves and broken branches, but then her eyes locked onto a stroller lying on its side near a patch of thick bushes. One wheel was twisted, the handle snapped like someone had fallen hard or been pushed off balance. Emily felt her stomach drop. She hurried to the stroller and knelt beside it. The seat straps were unbuckled, loose and dirty. There was mud smeared across the cover and a tiny sock was stuck to one of the wheels. This wasn't an abandoned item. This was a sign of trouble. Her hands trembled as she searched the area. The ground around the stroller was disturbed, covered with marks, some deep, some dragged, some too small to be from an adult. Emily's breath grew tight. The puppy scratched at the ground near the bushes, letting out quick, broken cries. "Show me," she whispered. The puppy ran behind the bushes, digging at a spot where the soil looked fresh and uneven. Emily rushed over, her heart pounding so loudly she could barely hear her own breath. The dirt was loose, darker than the rest, like it had been moved recently. Too recently. Emily dropped to her knees. She brushed aside the top layer of leaves and felt her whole body freeze. A tiny blanket lay buried beneath the soil. Big, torn, mud-covered. And then she heard it. A faint sound. So soft she thought she imagined it at first. A weak cry. Her heart lurched so hard it hurt. She began digging with her bare hands, tossing dirt aside as fast as she could. The puppy cried beside her, its paws flying through the soil. Emily's fingers touched something small. Something warm. She pushed away the remaining dirt and gasped. Baby. A tiny baby, barely a few months old, covered in dirt and trembling weakly. Emily's vision blurred as she lifted the infant gently into her arms. The little chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. The baby let out a thin, broken whimper. "Oh no, oh sweetie," Emily whispered, voice shaking. She wrapped the baby inside her own jacket, holding the small body close for warmth. The puppy pressed its face against the infant's hand, whining softly as if checking if the baby was still alive. Emily pressed her radio again. "Dispatch, please. I need help now. I have an infant. Alive but barely." Silence. Only static. Emily stood on trembling legs, clutching the baby to her chest. "I'm getting you out of here," she whispered. The puppy barked once, then began running back toward the trail, leading the way. Emily followed, praying with every step that she wasn't too late. Emily pushed through the thick trees as fast as she could, the baby held tightly against her chest. The little one barely moved, only letting out soft, shaky breaths that made Emily's heart twist with fear. She kept whispering, "Stay with me, please stay with me," even though her voice was breaking. The puppy stayed ahead of her, barking in short, quick bursts to keep her moving in the right direction. It didn't run too far, always checking back to make sure she was still behind. Its tiny legs trembled, but it never stopped. Emily tried her radio again. "Dispatch, this is Officer Carter. I have a live infant. I need help immediately." Only static. She felt panic rising, but she shoved it down. She couldn't afford it. Not now. The baby's skin was cold. Too cold. Emily pulled her jacket tighter around the child and held her close to her body for warmth. "Come on," she whispered. "Just hang on a little longer." They broke through a line of bushes and reached a narrow trail where the sunlight finally touched her face. Emily quickly pressed the radio again, louder this time. "Dispatch. This is Officer Carter. Can anyone hear me?" A crackle answered. Then a voice. "Unit 12, we hear you. What's your status?" Emily almost cried. "I have an infant in critical condition. I'm on the trail off Creekside Road. Send EMS now." "Copy that. Ambulance en route. Stay put." Emily knelt down gently, keeping the baby wrapped tight. She checked the small face again. The baby whimpered, eyes barely open. The sound was so faint it shook Emily to her core. You're okay," she whispered, her hands shaking as she tucked the blanket around the tiny body. "Just keep breathing." The puppy sat beside her, panting softly, eyes locked on the infant with a focus that didn't seem normal for a dog that young. It nudged Emily's arm as if asking if the baby was going to be all right. Emily placed her hand on its head. "You saved her. You really did." The distant wail of sirens slowly reached them. Emily let out a shaky breath of relief and stood as the ambulance pulled up near the trail entrance. Paramedics jumped out and hurried toward her. One of them, a woman with calm eyes, took the baby into her arms right away. She checked the tiny chest, wrapped the child in warm blankets, and placed a small oxygen mask over the baby's face. "She's fighting," the medic said quietly. "We'll take it from here." Emily stepped back, wiping her face with her sleeve. The puppy barked frantically as the medics carried the baby toward the ambulance. It tried to follow, but Emily scooped it up before it could jump inside. "It's okay," she whispered. "They're helping her." The medic paused at the ambulance door. "If you hadn't found her when you did, she wouldn't have made it." Emily held the puppy tighter as the doors closed and the sirens faded into the distance. The forest was quiet again, but the weight of what she had just witnessed pressed hard on her heart. She looked down at the small dog in her arms. Its fur was dirty, its body tired, but its eyes still focused on the road the ambulance had taken. "You didn't just find me," Emily whispered. "You saved her life." The hours that followed felt heavier than any shift Emily had ever worked. She drove straight to the hospital after leaving the woods, the puppy curled up quietly in the passenger seat. It didn't bark anymore. It just stared out the window, ears twitching every time an ambulance siren echoed nearby, as if still searching for the baby it had tried so hard to protect. When Emily walked into the pediatric emergency wing, a nurse recognized her uniform immediately. "You're Officer Carter, right?" the woman asked gently. "Come with me." Emily held the puppy close as she followed her down the hallway. Her heart thudded with every step. She wasn't prepared to hear bad news. Not after everything that happened. Not after the baby's tiny cry in the dirt. Not after the puppy's desperate run through the forest. The nurse opened a door to a small room. Inside, the baby lay in a warm crib, wrapped in soft blankets, tubes attached, a monitor blinking steadily beside her. Her breathing was deeper now, slow but steady. Stronger than before. Emily covered her mouth with her hand. The relief hit so hard it nearly brought her to her knees. "She's stable," the nurse said softly. "Cold, dehydrated, but she's a fighter. She's going to make it." Emily felt a tear fall before she even realized she was crying. The puppy pressed its tiny head against her arm, sensing the change in her emotions. "You hear that?" she whispered to it. "She's going to be okay." The nurse glanced at the puppy and smiled. "Is that the one who led you to her?" Emily nodded. "I never would have found the baby without her." The nurse stepped closer. "You know, sometimes animals understand danger before humans do. Whatever happened out there, this little one was determined to get help." Emily looked at the puppy, small, tired, and still trembling slightly. It had risked everything alone in the woods, for a baby who couldn't speak for herself. "You saved a life today," Emily whispered, stroking the pup's fur. "And I'm not letting you go back out there alone." Hours later, when Emily finally left the hospital, the sky had shifted to shades of gold and soft orange. The puppy sat in her lap, finally relaxed, its breathing calm and steady. She took one last look at the hospital doors, knowing the baby inside had a future again because of a brave puppy who refused to give up. As she drove away, she glanced down at the little German shepherd curled against her chest. "You're coming home with me," she said quietly. "You've earned it." The puppy looked up at her with tired but trusting eyes. And for the first time all day, Emily smiled, softly, deeply, and with a warmth she didn't know she still had left. Together they headed home. A rescued baby. A brave little hero. And an officer whose life had just changed forever. Sometimes the smallest cries for help come from the bravest hearts.